Okay, we are officially beginning. It is 8 p.m. I am Shauna McKenzie of Best Kept Self, founder of Best Kept Self, and I am with two of many of our dozens of amazing contributors, and Alicia's giving us claps, woohoo! But I am here with Kelly and Luna, and this is the first blab the first installment of this new monthly series, so long as you guys keep chiming in, you guys love it. So Luna Love has been a contributor for, I think you guys joined in the same pool of people, I believe. So what, like 8 months?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Months? Yeah. That went by fast.
It feels like it's so short.
I know. So Luna is a holistic wellness counselor, and I love a self-proclaimed self-discovery junkie. I love that. She has an incredible story. You can read it on her website, lunalovewellness.com. Involved in a lot of activities. I mean, I knew you were busy, but until I reread your bio, I was like, holy cow, you are busy. Lots of collaborations, lots of activities, projects in the whole wellness and spiritual sphere. So Luna, why don't you give us just your introduction and a quick background on you?
Yeah, I'd love to. I really stepped into my work through my personal experience and my personal life, and it just kind of kept coming to me, really just answering the call from spirit to step into service in a new way. And that was initially through counseling at a drug and alcohol facility, which was just kind of this awesome opportunity that came my way with no credentials at the time. So then I've gone back to school and have really built a business for myself where I can more focus on helping women and stepping into empowered leadership, into finding balance in all areas of their life, and really working with all my clients to develop a sense of emotional mastery, which is definitely a big part of my focus in both my personal life and in my practice. And yeah, I get to write for amazing blogs like yours and share all the same stuff with all the clients. It's just life. How do we be the best us we can be and nourish ourselves and love ourselves through the process when that's really challenging?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking our language. Great. All right. Well, and our next contributor that's here joining us today for this topic is Kelly Elizabeth Scott. And she's a leadership and wellness coach for dreamers and doers, working with CEOs, entrepreneurs, business professionals to clear the clutter, embrace their health, and step up to the leadership plate. She also has a really incredible story that is worth going over to her website and reading over at kellyelizabethscott.com. But one of my favorite lines from your story, which is a great lead-in to tonight, is this statement that you have on there. And you wrote, "Nobody told me that becoming an entrepreneur would bring up every single tiny insecurity I have ever had." And I've said that before to people in interviews or to people that are thinking about getting into entrepreneurship. I was like, okay, it's amazing, hands down, a better quality of life. But let me tell you, it is going to pull out everything. Talk about making you get your shit together and starting your own business. So tonight's all about self-sabotage. So Kelly, let's start with you. One question, one blanket question. Do you think that every single person suffers from self-sabotage, or do you think that some people are totally escaped of it?
Well, thank you for that introduction. And yeah, it's so true.
Please give yours before you start. I'm sorry. Please give yours.
No. That covers it up. And I think that line really sums it up for me, because so I was a systems engineer for the Navy, and then I enjoyed it, and it was challenging, and I loved everybody I worked with, but it wasn't quite that thing where I was just excited to wake up every single day and work. Yeah. And so that's what I was looking for. And, I was gung-ho, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm so excited. This is going to be great. And I was warned that I'd be slow to make money, or that things might just take longer than I thought, or I might get lonely at some point. But then all of a sudden, a couple months in, I'm realizing, no, that part's hard, but that wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part for me really has been, okay, this is me now. There's no more employer. There's no title. There's no other person's mission. It's now mine and my thoughts and my dreams and my ideas. And it's terrifying, honestly. And so that's been a lot for me. And it's been a lot of self-sabotage in dealing with that. And so really, I guess when you ask, everybody has some sort of self-sabotage? I think to some extent we do. I think that we are something I love. I just finished up training with TCM, Transformational Coaching Method, with Stacy and Carrie. I don't know if either of you know them. And something they always say is that we are winning the game we are playing. Mm-hmm. And so kind of like there is such a thing as self-sabotage, but that there also isn't. And that we really are winning this game that we're playing, and we're doing things to get the result that we want, which is kind of terrifying when we think about it that way. But I think a big part of self-sabotage is the difference between our brain, like an internal conflict. And so our critter brain and our human brain just wants all these big, wonderful things to happen. It was kind of me before I started as an entrepreneur, was that this is going to be great and I have all these dreams. It's going to be so much fun. And then the critter brain popping in and being like, oh, but it's so scary. And so it's just kind of that conflict of we want something better and we want to do all these great things, but a piece of us feels a little bit threatened and a little bit really scared by it. And so we feel some type of resistance, and until we can kind of pinpoint it and maybe work through it or know it's there, sometimes we're going to do things that just keep us safe so that we don't have to feel that fear or that resistance or that insecurity. For me has been a big one. And so I think maybe if you're super, 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 super aware of your thoughts and your beliefs, that maybe you won't have self-sabotage. But I think otherwise it's really easy for it to creep up on us.
Oh, absolutely. And for those of you that are listening in the chat bar, we would love to hear from you. Do you think truly that everyone suffers from self-sabotage, or do you think there's exceptions? Do you think some people are in the clear? What do you guys think? And then I want to shift this to Luna because, I remember being in a mastermind group, a pretty high-level mastermind group several years ago. And, of course, this is one of the topics. And a lot of the women, and one of the most common self-sabotaging behaviors or mantras or thoughts that a lot of us have is, I'm not worthy. And I remember sitting in that group being like, am I a narcissist? Because I kind of feel worthy, I feel like I'm working really hard and I feel like, I've put my time in. I'm like, I just don't feel that. And every woman around me was like, oh my gosh, I just don't feel worthy. And I'm like, I am missing something, I think. And I was just like, not that I don't feel insecure, just my insecurities are in different places. Right. And I remember as we had this discussion, that seemed to be the overall self-sabotaging theme at that point. And what I discovered later was that self-sabotage can be packaged and camouflaged in a lot of different ways and pop up in the weirdest ways. So, Luna, what do you think? Do you think that some people are totally in the clear? Do you think we all kind of suffer from a little bit of self-sabotage?
I think that there's a few people in bodies on the planet who don't.
Yeah.
But most of all, I think that if you're human, then you have an ego, and your ego is always trying to keep you small in some way. And our way to, my way rather, to work with that ego and heal that is to lend more love to the places that are hurting, that the places that feel small or unsafe to fully be in my fullest potential and to really live in the way that like intellectually I believe what you believe. I'm like, I'm so worthy. And these little things pop up in every now and then. I'm like, oh yeah, that's still there. Okay, cool. That's still there. Yeah. Haven't seen that in a while. And it just comes up to remind me that there's more room to deepen in that area, to give more love. And I think that that's part of what being here on the planet is about. Life is the school and love is the lesson, and we get to keep practicing that. And that insecurity or the sabotage just comes up as a way to give us feedback, to show us where we can do that.
I love that. I think that
I do too. Sorry, just jumping in real quick there. I love what you say, that it's just showing up to give us that feedback or to point us to those things that we should be going forward with next, or diving into and being curious about next.
Yeah, because if we judge ourselves for okay, so I notice self-sabotage, but then if I move into judgment about sabotaging myself, well then that's double the work to clear up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it can kind of make you, like what you were saying, to share, to kind of empathize, I do feel worthy. I do get, so then I started thinking, okay, well, where is it? What is it? I almost started getting paranoid. And so it's okay, did I self-fulfill that self-sabotage then by then later realizing? And, so I don't want this discussion to lead to oh my gosh, if I'm not feeling it, it must be hidden away. But it's also a double-edged sword and a catch-22 almost, because self-sabotage comes up, but the only way to fix it is to be self-aware. And a lot of times that self-awareness comes from someone else pointing that out in a good or bad or, situation, or however it may be pointed out. But oftentimes, wouldn't you say that there's some other interaction with someone else, whether they realize or not, that can be the tipping point to realizing that you have self-sabotage? Maybe it's a reaction that you're having to something, or when someone makes a comment, you feel like defensive, or Luna, how is it kind of, how is it manifested in your life? Like, how do you know, how can you kind of, for us, give us some signals based on your own experience for how you can identify what self-sabotage is when it starts to creep in?
Yeah, I have so many different ways. And like you said, I think we're always relating to something, whether it's ourselves or our environment or another person. And that aspect of relating is what gives us that feedback, which is what shows us what we can see in ourselves. And so even if it's relating to myself or relating to somebody else where I'm getting that feedback, for me, it's really like, that doesn't feel good. Like often it's like, I just get that thing where it's like, well, that didn't feel good. Like whether it's something that somebody else said or a thought that I had about myself. And then if I stop, it's really like, oh, there's actually like tension or dissonance in my body. And like for me, if I'm not sure about something, I just pause and check in with my body. Like, do I feel in harmony or do I feel dissonance in my body? Like dis-ease in my body, because that's a signification that I've like separated from myself and not acknowledged my greatness. And to me, any form of separation from self or like forgetting how amazing and limitless I really am is a form of self-sabotage. And that just really comes up in like the way that I physically feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Listening to your body. And I'm sure, Kelly, you can probably speak to listening to your body in that same sense. Do you have anything to follow up regarding that? Like any sort of, from your own experience, cues or indicators on your end that you can share with us?
Yeah, I saw in the comments something that Angie wrote, which I just love, starting to notice when you're self-sabotaging just by awareness and being aware of it. And I think for me, that's been a really big key. And I've realized that resistance, that's how it shows up for me. I feel resistance and I want to flee. I was just in Arizona for part of the TCM conference that I mentioned earlier. And as soon as I got there, I wanted to leave. I felt so much resistance. I sat down in my chair and I was physically uncomfortable. My body hurt. It felt like I was this weird combination of like, I'm going to explode. Like I can't sit here. And so it showed up for me as just this total resistance to being there in my body. It was very physical in my stomach. And so just kind of realizing that, okay, that is something. I don't actually have to leave. I don't actually have to run, out the door. I can sit here and figure out where it's coming from and what it's trying to tell me and what I'm so afraid of, learning or experiencing, or why this has pushed me to that extent to feel something.
Yeah.
And so really a lot with what Luna is saying is for me, it is in my body. And so I just have to notice, okay, some sort of resistance. I feel it a lot with other people too. I'll notice if somebody says something and I'm like, what that? I'm like, okay, there's probably something there. Like I'm probably not, that reacting that strongly to you. If it wasn't for a reason that you're pushing me outside of some sort of safety bubble that I have. And I need to be curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And springboarding from that, I think that obviously as business owners, we're always looking at our bottom line. We're looking at marketing schemes. We're looking at strategies. We're in the systems of our business oftentimes. And part of the reason that I started Best Kept Self is that, I lived on the business side for a very long time, ignoring the mental side of it. And because I did, I felt really confident because I was putting in a lot of work and I was putting in a lot of time building relationships. But when things weren't happening as fast as I thought that they should be happening during this time, that's when it really dawned on me, like, am I afraid of money? For me, like that was part of the self-sabotage that came to light for me. And it wasn't, but what was confusing me was it wasn't about not feeling worthy. It was more of if I make tons of money, then things will change, which most likely they will. Even if it was good, there was like this deep-hearted fear that I had to get at about being successful and having, if that meant tons of money. And when I really went down this path and this journey to really figure out like what is keeping me back, because that is what's holding me back. I have all the skills, I have all the talent, I have all the systems, all the marketing, everything there. But that deeply ingrained thing, just like we all might have one of those, like I truly believe that when you can solve that, then things just happen in your business. Like it becomes easier and you don't have to sell as much. And so I don't know where I'm going with this, but like that for me was like the fear of money was a deep self-sabotage thing, because it was all about control. Have either of you felt that around money with self-sabotage specifically?
Yes, actually money is just something I'm starting to dive into. So I don't have a ton to say about it because I'm really just at the beginning of diving into my own thoughts around money and fears around money. But it manifested more for me as if I get to a certain level within my business, it will affect my health, was the way that it did more for me. So it didn't show up right away as a money block, but more as just but this is going to take away another really big desire that I have, that I thought I had to live this very relaxed lifestyle and be very calm and easygoing. And if I build this business that makes a lot of money and has all these clients, I won't be able to have both. And so that was something I had to work through. And to break that. But I was actually really curious because I am starting to dive into the money stuff. Were there a couple of things that you did to work through it, or what was kind of that biggest thing once you recognized, okay, this money is a block for me, that I'm afraid of this change?
Yeah, for me, it was all about control. So ultimately, the tail end of that story got to, okay, I like to be in control. So what I need to do now is let go of control, because when I grasp onto control so hard, that's when I start to lose all my freedom. And that's where we get really, really confused, is we think that if we can control, we'll have more freedom in our lives. And in fact, that takes us farther and farther away. And so for me, I started acting very reactive to everything that was happening to me, like completely letting go of control, allowing myself to just be 100% present, and realizing that there was so much more freedom there. And to realize that, guess what? I look back and I've been through all of these changes, all of these evolutions, all of these successes, and nothing has been awful. Nothing has turned me into a bad person. Like money was tied to this, like if I have tons of it, things are going to change and it's going to make me evil. Like that's silly. But like, I think a lot of us are freaked out about making tons of money because they equate it with like bad or like evil or like.
Well, that's a lot of messages we get, right? Like we get a lot of messages like that from media or from magazines or celebrities or movies or whatever it is.
Yes.
And so you get this belief like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be crazy and evil. And
and it brings up a good point. Or making a lot of money will separate me from those that I love. That was a big one for me too. It was like, it was a whole complex thing. But for me, it was like, just be reactive to things and realize that controlling is taking me farther away from happiness. So that solved a lot of problems in and of itself. And we want to jump in on this.
Yeah, I mean, in my life, I've seen that as well. And control is a huge thing because it's totally an illusion anyway. Just letting that go. And yeah, I think around like the money, whether it's health or money or having the partner that you've always dreamed of, whatever it is, it's like if there's any sense of limitation, like a limiting belief, like if I have the money, then people aren't going to like me, which means like, and it does go back to worth, like, cause it's like, if you trickle that down and follow that thought pattern down the rabbit hole, it's like, then if people don't like me because I made money, then I'll be alone and then I'm unworthy of love because, it always goes back there. And so any of these like limiting beliefs creates lack because there's a ceiling there, so there's no sense of like abundance or opportunity when we're functioning with any sense of like limiting beliefs. And I think self-sabotage is so highly related to limiting beliefs, just thinking that like an I can't attitude in any way.
Yeah. So can you give me an example, Una, in your life of where you pinpointed a self-sabotage to your business, then like completely flipped it, and now we're on the other side of it? Can you give us like that point in your life, like what was going on, what was it, and then how did you get to the other side?
Yes.
If you feel so compelled to share.
Yeah. I just had something come up recently, and I often find that like my business is so related to my personal life. And so I was having these, you're on a group mastermind that I'm leading for the first half of the year, each year. And as one of the mentors, and it's going so well, but the registration period was such an interesting process for me because I was getting on the phone with tons of women who were just like, I love you. I've wanted to work with you for so long. This program looks great. It looks exactly like what I need in my life right now, but I can't. Mm-hmm. And I kept getting like, but I can't, with like a million excuses, but like, this is so perfect for me, but I can't. And a lot of those women shifted their can't to a can. But I'm such a person like, okay, I really want this. How can we make it happen? Like, whether it's like, I don't have the money or like something's not right. I'm such a like, how can we figure this out so everybody wins? And, but I was like being met with that. So I was like, okay, there's gotta be a place in my life where I'm doing that, where I'm saying to myself, I can't. And so when I looked, there were like waking up earlier, and like I was like, there's larks and there's owls, and I'm an owl, and like I had an I can't attitude around it, and I knew that it's not about waking up early or not, it's about the way I was approaching it. And so just seeing like anything, like I really want to go for a hike, but it's too cold out, so I'm not going to. Like I can't. Like any type of energy that was limiting me from doing what I wanted to do or doing what I felt was like the most self-honoring thing at that time. And so I just made an effort to shift those things. Like I noticed like that week that I was having all these calls that there were these two areas. And so I totally just got on board with like going to bed earlier, waking up earlier, and having like going out in the frost and like going on a hike anyway. Yeah. And when I did that and felt really good about it, all this energy around my business shifted, and all these women who were in I can't found their yes. And it's like, it takes me seeing that reflection to help me see the areas in my life where I can grow. Because if I'm being met with it outside, there's definitely something inside that's there.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so that's a really, really amazing concrete example of how you can turn this self-awareness into the success that you're looking for in your business. And we too often turn to, oh, it needs to be a Facebook ad tweak, or, oh, I need to tweet more. Look what you did. And that was such internal, deep-rooted work. And I just 100% believe that. Again, that's part of the reason we started Best Step Self. Like, I've seen those kinds of changes too. And so basically what you're saying is like, that's all just a reflection of an internal struggle that you're having. In a sense, like everything's a mirror, right? And so if we can realize that everything's a mirror and work on something internally, like something like that could just shift.
I have a quick trick around that.
Oh, I love it. Yes, go.
They say it at the rehab center I work at. It says, if you spot it, you got it. So that means like if I'm complimenting your beauty, I can only see that because I can acknowledge that within myself. And also if I'm like, that guy's a jerk, well, if you spot it, you got it. Like, you know, me kind of saying that or thinking that makes it that like that's present within me at that time. And so it's a really great trick for self-awareness, because as soon as you think or say something about a situation or yourself or somebody else, it's like, well, you know, whatever you're seeing in others is what you can see in yourself. So
I love that. I love that. That's so simple and amazing. I love that. How about you, Kelly? Do you have any sort of example where you like flipped it and gotten to the other side? And what was it? And what was that situation in your life?
Yeah, sure. I love that. If you spot it, you got it. That's very similar to something that I was kind of struggling with for a while, because you hear all this about your beliefs, right? That it all comes down to what you believe. Just figure out what you believe. You know, these limiting beliefs, flip it. And for the longest time, I was like, I don't know how to figure out what I believe. Like that's crazy. And then I heard a quote very, very similar, and it was, if you want to know what you believe, you merely need to notice what you're experiencing. And so really just being aware of, okay, I'm experiencing someone being a jerk. I'm experiencing people tell me they can't do something. So it's that same sort of thing. You just start to pay attention to what you're experiencing to figure out what you must believe. Mm-hmm. And so for me, something that has been really big that I've had to work through was this kind of fear or belief that nobody wanted to, basically that I didn't have anything interesting to say, that I was boring. And so it stems back to something that happened in high school. And so, an experience where some people did some mean things, and we take that to mean something. And for me, I took it to mean that I was boring or that I didn't have anything interesting to say. And so now when it comes time to post on Instagram or to write for a blog or to do something, I would have those blocks of, well, no one's even listening. What does it even matter? And these thoughts would come up that would prevent me from actually wanting to put my thoughts out there. And so I had to kind of work through that and figure out, for me, it took getting on the phone with somebody and realizing that this event in high school that I thought I had totally moved on, that I hadn't thought about it in years, I didn't think it was an issue. It took me crying on the phone with this coach and being like, wow, like this actually, this is what I took it to mean. Like, this is how it makes me feel. And this is what I'm still so afraid of feeling again. And for me, it was this disappointment and this rejection and just total embarrassment. And so I was posting on Instagram or social media, be met with this fear of feeling that embarrassment or that disappointment again. And it was just this total block for me that I had no idea I was even remotely caring about anymore. And so it's crazy and it's exciting now because Instagram is where I get most of my clients.
Your Instagram is amazing. Like
Thank you.
I'm like, you have the best, most interesting Instagram. So it's so funny, like to hear us talk about our own kind of like struggled with, because it's oftentimes things that the general people around us would be like, well, what?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you're like, no, it's there. And it's so painful.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, the question so my next question is, do you guys think that to get over self-sabotage, it always takes some sort of like mentor, coach, or friend? Do you think it takes an assistant from the outside, or do you think that someone could get over self-sabotage on their own? Because I know for me, maybe it happened more efficiently and much more quickly working with a coach and a life coach. But what do you guys think? Do you think that it's kind of important to find that person who can help you on that side of things? Or do you think, with enough tactics and whatnot, someone could do it all on their own? Kelly, I'll let you start.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It definitely makes it quicker working with a coach and somebody who can kind of guide you through that process. And do some of that deep internal work with you. But I think once you become good at being aware of what you're experiencing, and the thoughts that you have, and then therefore the beliefs that you have, that you can do some of this work on your own, and you can, get through these things and work through your own limiting beliefs, your self-sabotaging tendencies. But I do think it helps to have somebody mirror to you, really, right? Just mirror to you what it is that you're experiencing or that you're saying. And be able to kind of connect the dots and the patterns for you to make it a heck of a lot easier to do so.
Yeah. And Luna, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's great to have tools, extra tools and support. And if that's a coach, awesome. It's what I do. So I'm glad that there's people who need that. And I think it depends on where you're at in self-sabotage. Like if you've been struggling with the same thing, and it's the same story for like over a decade about how the right guy or the right job or the right whatever is not there for you. Like you don't deserve it, whatever it is, like whatever that, if it's been running for a long time, like, yeah, talk to someone, because it's having another perspective that really helps. And that could be a friend, that could be someone in your life, or it could be a coach. But I think that it's our kind of duty and obligation to ourselves to strengthen those muscles of self-awareness and make that a stronger practice in our lives. And that doesn't mean don't seek help or don't get help or you don't deserve help and you have to do it all alone. It's like both end.
Yeah. Yeah. And, honestly, we're spending so much money on logos, website, ads, branding. It's crazy to me that more business owners are not paying for support to nourish and nurture their mind. I mean, that is the most important part and most important tool of your business. So if you don't have someone, that would be for sure one of my biggest things. If you don't have someone that can serve as your sounding board or mentor just on the mental side of things, I would make that one of your 2016 endeavors for sure. Like, find that person that you can go to and talk about this kind of stuff with. Because I know once I started to get up here totally unwound, then it was amazing. And I want to get into more of the fears about maybe unexpected fears about business, because, you know, so Kelly, how many years in are you with your business?
I've been going full-time since September. So just a couple of months now. But
since like prior to that, prior to full-time, how long were you kind of
I would say probably two years that I've been like toying with it.
Yeah. And then you know, where are you at with self-employment? How long have you been?
I was in a different industry before, and I've been at least freelance and independent contractor for at least 6 years now.
Yeah. So like my first year of business, I truly believe that it's because I hadn't yet filled all that space and I hadn't cluttered up my mind yet. That first year of business was so pure and clean and was so amazing and passion filled. I still remember looking back and being like, that was so easy. Like, things were just happening, like landing on my plate, doors were opening, and I was so incredible. It was the most, you know, focused and zoned in than I ever was. Then, you know, you get into year 2, year 3, more projects, more opportunities, like things start to, space gets filled, and then clutter happens. And like, that's where my turning point was kind of year 2 and year 3 of like, whoa, what happened? And that motivation was kind of lost and it felt different. And so now being over that and getting back to an even better place, one of my beliefs about, you know, self-sabotage and all of this, and one of the things that I didn't expect as a business owner, is that you can have a fear about not being as passionate. Like, you can make yourself feel guilty that you don't feel as passionate, because that's what like entrepreneurship is all branded around, is like passion. And so if you have like days which turn into weeks and then months where you don't feel passionate about your business, that can be a terrifying feeling. So I don't know if either of you have gone through one of those phases where it kind of like alarms you, but I know for me that was one big fear in my business that I would have never anticipated.
Yeah, I experience that regularly, and I think that's really healthy, because it allows me to recommit in a deeper way. And that's always like, that doubt is, I use it as feedback, you know, and I look at that and then check in. And like, part of why I got into entrepreneurship was because of travel, because I love to travel. But I was traveling and working. I was working, saving money, traveling till I was broke, coming back, starting over, doing it again. And I just got to an age and a repetition in a place in my life where it's just like, this isn't consistent. So I created a business of my own so that I could do both at the same time and have more freedom. And for years, it's been like, I can't travel because I'm like starting a new business. And now it's like, oh, I get to do so much because I have my own business. And it took that doubt. And there are times regularly throughout the year that I'm like, I just want to, like, what am I doing? I just want to quit all of this. And like, what did I get myself into? And it allows me to recommit. Like, going there and allowing myself to feel that doubt and not judging myself for the doubt allows me to be like, oh, okay, I move through it. If I allow myself permission to feel it, then I can move through it. And on the other side is the truth, which could be like, maybe it's not the right time, or maybe it's like, okay, I just need to like adjust this one thing. And then there's the commitment.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so true. And when I've kind of been in one of those phases, you're right. It does nothing. It just, like, anytime you feel frustrated or down or whatever, does nothing to beat yourself up over beating yourself up, you know? And so just to kind of go through it and sit with it and be like, yeah, so be it. I feel like I wish someone would tell me what to do today, and that's just it. I'm going to own that. I'm going to own that and rock it out. And I'm going to wear sweatpants and work from home and not shower, or like whatever it is, you know, that just makes it, just get through it. And then like the next day it's like, yeah, my own business is amazing. Like, it's just such a wacky ride. It's crazy. Kelly, is there any like unexpected fears that have creeped up that you, and if you don't, that's great. But like, has there been anything that you're like, whoa, I would not have expected to feel that? going into it? Because you're a very self-aware person, so I'd love to know if there was something in.
Well, I definitely feel the days where I just want somebody to tell me what to do all the time. And there are days when I'll sit there and I'm just like, it would be so much easier to go get a job, which, in one way it would, in one way it wouldn't. So I have to remind myself of that. But I think what I've realized about myself once I started this whole journey was that I am a grass is greener person, or at least I used to be. And so it was always, the grass will be greener when I have a full-time job for myself. Oh, the grass will be greener when I'm doing this. The grass will be greener when I have this amount of money. And it was kind of my way of putting things off. So it'd be like, I'll take walks at lunchtime when I move into that new house. Or, I'll start making a smoothie every day when I get this beautiful countertop. Like, it was like all these things that I'm like, I'll do things when the grass will be greener when. And so something that I really had to realize in myself was this, like, what is this? Like, why do I always think I'll do things when, and life will be better when I'm never actually getting to enjoy it right now?
Yeah.
And so that's something that I've really had to work through, is that, okay, how do I make it great and wonderful and beautiful now? So even when I'm feeling no passion and I want to go get a full-time job somewhere else so somebody can just tell me what to do, I have to say, okay, how do I make right now beautiful? How do I stay right here and make it wonderful? How do I feel into this resistance or uncomfortableness and just be okay with it, and find some way to make it pretty and beautiful and great? And for me, a big part of that is, what can I learn here? How can I be curious? How can I be kind to myself? And how can I really just learn something from where I am?
I love that.
And so that's been a big thing for me. And I think the other thing is that I didn't expect so much was just that the hustle, right? Like, everyone says you got to hustle. And it gets exhausting. And I'm like, I don't want to hustle all the time.
Yeah.
And so something I've really had to work on is being like, I don't have to hustle all of the time the way that everybody else is presenting the hustle. I can find a way where it really feels good for me. And it's okay to do nothing sometimes.
Oh my gosh. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with, whether it's get up early or always be or like hustle.
Yes,
like
exactly.
I thought that mentality was cool. Like, I really was like, I got on that train for several years, and I'm like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, I'm hustling. I'm up early. Well, not really up early, but staying up late. Like, time. Like, I'm
sort of, kind of.
Vacations. No, I work all the time. Like, cool. And it's like, I'm like, that's so silly. Like, I'm almost embarrassed. I'm like, that's so silly. I think of everything that I missed out on. I'm like, I didn't take a vacation for 5 years once I started my business. 5 years. And then the moment that we took our first vacation, my first vacation 5 years, and our first vacation together, my husband and I was like, we're never going back to that place. Amazing. Like, it's been amazing, like, to travel. And you're so right. Like, you can be present now. You can be doing everything that you want to be doing and love right now. And if anyone missed the pep talk on Monday that I did, this was exactly what I was talking about. I told one of my favorite parables about the fisherman and the banker. It's on the blog at Best Kept Self, my Monday morning pep talk, but it's about this, and it's the most amazing parable. So if you ever get lost, just go read that parable because it's awesome. Anything else to say about either of that?
No, you pretty much covered that.
At the end of the night. Okay, so Luna, you talked about loving tools and resources and whatnot. I think that self-sabotage and dealing with it is something that we need to build into our preventative care kit somehow. So I think that rather than waiting for it to creep up, we need to figure out ways to prevent it from happening. So from your angle, what would be some great preventative measures that we could kind of put into place to ensure that we keep it at bay?
Awesome question. I love that. I have one more treatment before I go into preventative care, which is what you were saying just really touched on that, Kelly, was like, I have a rule for myself, where there's resistance, go there. Like, and like, that's just me, and not everyone's like that, but like, I am just like, okay, I have resistance. Like, that's where I need to look. That's where I need to go. So that's a treatment, not a preventative, but.
Which is frustrating, right? Because we don't want to go into the resistance. It doesn't feel good.
But once you do it enough and you see the results of it, you're like, oh, that does feel really good.
You're like,
after.
That's why I needed that.
Yeah. So preventative medicine, like, I really see, mental, emotional, spiritual blocks, these sense of limitation is just like, okay, well, how can I nourish myself more mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to create an environment where limiting beliefs they don't have a habitat. Like, how can I create a habitat within myself where those things have no place to thrive? You know, and so taking self-care, and a lot of this is like mental belief systems. So meditating is a huge plus. I'm a list maker. So like tracking things, like tracking when I feel like, just for 2 weeks, doing an experiment to track, like, when do I feel really great? When do I not feel great? When do I kind of feel neutral? And like seeing the patterns, okay, like, so I don't feel great. And like, oh, there's a pattern. There's like, it happens every time I feel this thing or I'm around this person. And then making changes to create what I want to experience, like creating my own reality. And so noticing like, what are the patterns? And for me, tracking on paper, like, really helps me do that. I think just like, again, the habitat, and for everyone that's different. So like some people that might be yoga and some people that might be like hardcore dance party, like everyone's got their own thing that nourishes their habitat. And I think just making a place that's like inhospitable for limiting beliefs to exist is a great preventative medicine.
I love that. There's a really wonderful book out there that kind of like, well, I take it, it matches that in my mind. She might not be taking it there, but it's called Quiet by Susan Cain, and it's about the power of introversion. But there's a part in that book where she talks about restorative niches. And I think I talked about that in a pep talk as well. But a restorative niche is essentially a place where you can go, or an activity or something that you do that is just 100% authentically you, a place that you don't have to put on a face, you don't have to make small talk, you don't have, or whatever it is, that you can just own it and be 100% genuine. And for some, you know, she's speaking to introverts because they get their power from, you know, recharging and being alone. And so, you know, she talks about, we're always going to have to make these trade-offs. And in business, especially, you know, especially if you're an introvert, you have to make trade-offs. Going to networking events, making sales calls, selling in and of itself might be a trade-off that takes you outside of your normal demeanor, and it kind of feels awkward. But there's just some stuff you're going to need to do in your business to be successful. So in order to balance that out, finding a sort of niche, something, coloring, reading, working out, whatever it is that you can go and recharge and just like live in that space and nourish your body, so that you then can go into those situations and get through it with clarity and realize it's just a temporary thing. I need to do this, you know, and then I'll be done. But I love the way she put that.
Yeah, I find in my life that like introspection, it's a practice that's developed. But the more you do it, the less you need to do it. Like, the more you give yourself to the practice and like create a routine and a structure and around it, it's not necessary anymore, because it just becomes a way of being that is implemented into like day-to-day life. Yeah. So, yeah.
I love preventative measures for managing it down the road and just making sure you keep it at bay. Self-sabotage.
Yeah, I think you both have named a lot of really, really great ones. And I love the idea of creating an environment, right? A place around you that feels really good. It lifts you up. It is how you want to feel the majority of the time. You have people around you that continue that. I definitely am a big believer that our environment is one of those things that helps success be 15,000 times easier, right? Just having a place around us that's already set up for that. Something that I think has helped me a lot, so I guess two different things, but one is if I feel something, and for me, like I said before, it was resistance. A lot of times I would feel resistance in my body, physical uncomfortableness, and even if I didn't really know why it was there or what to do about it, just kind of telling somebody, saying it out loud, putting it on paper. I do a lot of journaling and just getting to write it down. And just say, okay, I feel a lot of resistance being here right now. I don't know why or where it's coming from or what it means, but I feel it, it's there, and just giving it less power almost by admitting it and saying it's there and saying it's okay that it's there. There's no judgment, right? And just giving yourself a chance to say, yep, this is here, whatever it is, I'm feeling it, and that's okay. And a way that I love working through things like that is just by writing. So if I have a thought, or if I'm feeling something, or if I think it connects to something else, I'll just kind of start writing so that I can put pieces together easily. and just kind of get my thoughts out there. I tend to be really, really in my head. And if I can't get out of my head through exercise, that's one of my go-to things is if I am crazy up here, I'm like, just go move your body somehow. But if I can't do that, and then I just have to write it out and I have to get it out, or I have to pray, and just find a way to kind of put it outside of me almost. So whether it's on paper or by telling somebody or by asking how I could serve, just like, giving it up to a higher power, saying, God, please take this, show me kind of what's next. So it seems to be for me a big thing is just letting whatever it is that's there be put out somehow, so that I don't have to feel so much judgment around it by keeping it to myself.
Yeah. So as we're at 8, do you have something to add, Luna?
No, I was just saying that I love that. Yeah. One of the things that I also like piggybacking is you said just like speaking it. I think having personal accountability is so valuable. So if you don't have a coach, like just telling someone in your life, like a friend or your partner, like, I'm having a challenge here. Just like speaking it out loud and having someone to hold you accountable is really, really valuable because you're just not alone anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And just to be able to know that other people feel the same, feel the same way. We often get so down on ourselves because we think we're weird. Or there must be something wrong with us, or, especially with some of these self-sabotaging thoughts and our business. We look around, we have Facebook and all these wonderful posts coming out, every comparison, social media exacerbates that comparison constantly. But we need to be reminded that if you're feeling any self-sabotage thoughts, we all do, like as business owners. So you don't have to be always on, always hustling, up early, like burning out, being busy. Like it's just, we all feel it. And so, having someone else to turn to that can be a mentor, but also having someone else to turn to that can be like, I totally feel you. I felt this before, or this is happening now. Like, it's just great finding that community in common ground sometimes.
Yeah, that sense of like vulnerability of just speaking it out creates like a level of intimacy with yourself too. And not only just the person you're sharing it with, and that like creates connection. So the part of you that was like, the part of you that was acting out in the self-sabotage has now been acknowledged. And there's really no reason for it to do that anymore once it's acknowledged.
Absolutely. And I will say, the first few years in business, I felt like I had a lot to prove. But I was 22, early 20s. And so I know and felt, maybe if I spot it, maybe it was all a mirror at that time. But I constantly felt like I needed to prove something because I was so young. And so I went through a phase for several years where I felt like I couldn't be vulnerable at all because of that. And because you needed to, show credibility and whatever. So I think, if there's any relatively new business owners on the line, I would completely empathize with you if you're feeling like you can't quite be transparent about where you are at with your business, or you can't be upfront about struggles, or you feel like you need to keep it locked down because you don't want to hurt your credibility as a newer business owner. I found without a doubt that the moment I started being vulnerable, and I continue to be more vulnerable in my business and show people like this is one big journey. Like there are constant struggles. There's always something to talk about. I've had more success in that vulnerability than trying to keep it all inside and put on, a fake everything's okay, which is like life-changing for me.
Yeah. Okay, I totally agree. I love that. You get to show people and let them actually connect with you. And chances are, like we were talking about before, they've experienced something of that. So now they get to be like, oh, thank you. Like you said what I've been feeling, and now I can say it too. It's almost like giving us permission to also acknowledge that we're feeling that way.
Yeah. So just to check in with everyone, I'm loving all of the comments that are here. I know the three of us have been keeping our eyes on what everyone's saying. This is awesome. I love this platform. So we have nearly 170 viewers on here, which is so cool for our first Flab. And for the last 10 minutes, I like to get really concrete with the deep stuff as well. I like to blend the two together. So I want to spend kind of the next few minutes talking about some really concrete tools and maybe rehashing those. So we already talked about if you don't have some sort of like mind mentor, like someone to go to that can help you work out this side of it, it's so incredibly important. So put that on your to-do list for 2016. Find some sort of coach, mentor, someone that you can go to for the mindfulness side of your business. We all talked about journaling and how important that is. So like brain dumping those thoughts, being really self-aware through journaling. Kelly, you talked about working out, having friends that you can go to. And for me, I'll share one and let you, Luna and Kelly, kind of think of some more like concrete things as if we're making a list for everyone as we close out. For me, one thing that I would recommend is to keep a brag book for yourself and your business. From the very beginning, like a notebook or on Evernote or somewhere that you can collect the things, the wonderful feedback and testimonials that your clients, your colleagues, the people around you give to you. And again, maybe it's a Facebook status update and you screenshot it, but I highly recommend keeping some sort of folder or a place where you can stockpile the compliments that you get about you and your business. Because when you're having a low moment or feeling frustrated or you're hitting your head against the wall, it is so wonderful to be able to go to that place and pep yourself up when you don't have a friend who's successful in that moment. And that is not narcissistic. That is not being a braggart. I think that that is super imperative to reminding yourself why you're doing this in the first place. And sometimes knowing, to step back into your worth comes from those clients. And so to be able to stockpile all that stuff to see that you're making such an impact on that audience will always re-energize you, as it always has for myself. So creating a brag book for yourself would also be one concrete tool that I would love to see everyone implement within their business. And then either of you take it from here. Other like just concrete things that we can close out the evening with. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm thinking, honestly. Oh, is it?
Is there like quotes?
There's
I know
an echo.
here. But I have like a quote on my phone, like my desktop, just to like keep my mantra up. So it could be like mantras or
affirmations. Yeah, that's a good one. That's something that I definitely do a lot, or even gratitude. Something that I love to do. It's not super concrete, but it's really to celebrate everything. So acknowledge even the tiniest of wins and really start to train yourself to notice the positive things. I used to have a really unhealthy relationship to food, and that was probably the biggest key was to getting me to where I wanted to be, which was more of an intuitive eater who got to eat, whatever she wanted and listen to her body, was celebrating every time I ate one Reese instead of 300. Like it was just this thing where I started celebrating all these little tiny things that you could say weren't a win. Or you could say were a win. And so it's deciding to say they were a win and focusing yourself on all these really good things are happening so that more of them happen. Whether it's you just notice that more of them are happening or they are actually more of them are happening.
I love that. I'm a big celebrate yourself advocate. Yeah. Just like having a checklist at the end of the day, like, what was the best part of my day? Like, what is one thing I can do to celebrate myself today? Or what's one thing that deserves to be celebrated today is such a great kind of just like follow up to the end of your day.
Yeah, there's actually an app, I believe it's called Grid Diary. And it lets you set however many grids you want, but it's a very quick diary system. I like to do it at the end of the day, and you fill each grid with a different question, and usually the questions are like that. So it'd be like, what are the top three things you've learned today? What's one compliment that you got today? What are two things you're grateful for today? What made you laugh today? And you can add in any questions, but I love that practice at the end of the day because often I'm tired. I maybe don't want to like journal, but I want to be able to celebrate and express gratitude for the amazing things instead of going to bed being like, oh, that to-do list, I didn't get this done, I didn't get this done. So make a different kind of list, like you're saying, as you close out your day about the stuff that you do feel great about. Make a, feel grateful for list or whatever versus looking at that to-do list and feeling like you're behind. Is the Grid Journal online or can you buy one? No, it's an app. It is an app on your phone, Alicia. If you go to the App Store and just type Grid Diary, I'll do that as we're closing out here.
I think just to hop on real quick that I really love that idea. And I also think sometimes when we think of journaling, because we hear it from a lot of different places. And so I think when we are first wanting to start journaling, we think we have to write like these really long paragraphs. At least I did. I thought I had to write pages and I had to talk about every little detail of an experience. And I think something really good is just to write like a sentence or two. While you're getting started so that it doesn't feel crazy because of course if you miss a day or two and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I have to write a book about what's been happening, you're not going to do it. Exactly. And so just writing a sentence or two when things are happening or after they happen can be a really great way to start doing that and just becoming more aware.
I love that. Yeah, catching it in those moments rather than making it an event on your to-do list, like building it in. which is awesome. Yes, it's called Grid Diary. It's in the App Store. It's totally free. It should be free. I already have it, so I can't see the price, but it's amazing. I love it. It's a cool little app.
I also, real quick, I saw that Amanda commented saying that they may not be alone in making money. And so you always kind of think that, oh my gosh, everyone else is making a ton of money and I'm making nothing. Yes, totally agree. Have totally been there. It's very easy. Somebody will post like, oh, especially there's a lot of marketing out there that is like, oh, make 6 figures or this. And it looks really great and it's really exciting, but we have no idea if that's actually what they're making, how long it took, what, life looks like for anybody. But it is so easy to think that we do. And so I love, Amanda, that you commented on that.
Yeah,
it's so easy to assume that everybody else is making money or living some certain life, and we're just the only ones not.
And speaking of money, I think it's next month or March, but one of our upcoming months here is going to be a blab solely on mindset and money.
Awesome.
So we're going to talk about that and go into that deeper because, yes, we're in our business to do something that we're passionate about, but we're also business owners, so we'd also like to make money. But there's a lot wrapped into that. So we're going to talk about that on an upcoming blab. So get on the Best Kept Self mailing list if you want notifications, or on our fan page. We gave a lot of promotion around the blabs that are upcoming, so you will hear about it. All right, so I want to just thank you guys for being on this chat because it's so important, and to kick off our first installment. This is really wonderful. This is everything that I hoped for, and thank everyone in the chat here for being so awesome. I'm going to go back and read everything. But as we close out here, Luna, give us something that you're up to, or first of all, for sure, tell us where people can find you. What's like platform of choice, or where can people come and engage with you? And then is there anything that you want to share in terms of like a promotion or anything that's going on that you want everyone to know about?
Sure. Thanks. It was such a fun experience being here on the first blab with both of you. And just to close out with a tool as well, like I have this affirmation that I use for myself and my clients, like I can and I will, and I may not know how, but I'm going to do it. Like just kind of like the how part is irrelevant. Just you'll get there if you just believe in yourself. So the reason that I couldn't get on was because if you see my thing says Luna Love Wellness, I just got a Twitter account to be on the blab and I didn't spell it correctly. So wellness has 2 S's, which is why I was like, why I'm logging on. I'm like, why isn't it working? So you can find me on all social media at Luna Love Wellness, usually with 2 S's, on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, I have some upcoming catalyst sessions for the new year. So just really doing an intensive 2-hour sessions to like brainstorm your goals and create a plan, a 6-month plan, put it into action and look at like what limiting beliefs and sabotage are standing in the way, just like a real immersion to kind of set your year off right. And so it's not a promoted thing. I just have like 10 of them available. I've only sent it out to my list and mentioned it here. So there's still a few options left. And yeah, I have 6-month coaching programs. I'm not really doing anything else at the moment because of the mastermind, but I'm always available. Yeah, I just would love to connect. And this is such a great platform.
Yeah. So if people want to connect with you for one of those, will you type in the chat bar, like your website or where people can contact you?
Absolutely. It's lunalovewellness.com, and I'll type it in. And just for those who are like audio listening as well later, you can always contact me there.
Awesome. Thank you. And Kelly, how about you? Where can we find you and what are you up to?
You can just find me, just my full name, so kellyelizabethscott.com, and Instagram is by far my favorite social media. So you can find me over there too at Kelly Elizabeth Scott. I not up to any, that sounds so bad. Not up to anything specific. I am doing coaching right now. So you can find me over at kellyelizabethscott.com. I have a couple of different coaching programs and practices over there. And I have a 20-minute deep dive that I offer to anybody. So if anyone's interested in just really hopping on the phone and figuring out if they have any of these limiting beliefs or self-sabotaging stories going on, I would be happy to hop on the phone with you. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do.
Awesome. Great. Will you type in the chat bar where people can quickly get in touch with you if they want to do that? That would be amazing.
I sure will. Thank you. This has been wonderful.
This is awesome. I love it. Thank you, Blab, for starting this platform. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you guys, everyone. Again, we're up to 106 viewers, which is so cool, for being on here. Thank you for all of your comments. You can tweet us, find us at bestkeptself.com, go to our fan page, and connect with Luna and Kelly. They're amazing, and I love them, and I just so loved getting to chat with you live. This is so cool. So we are going to be bringing on other contributors. I believe both Luna and Kelly will be making appearances later in the year, but this will typically happen on the last Wednesday of every month, excluding holiday months. So keep your eye out for February's promotion, but you can mark your calendars for the last Wednesday, and you're pretty safe with that date. So that is it. Thank you guys. Everyone have an amazing night and a great rest of your week. And we will blab with you next month.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.